Welcome to the Wealthies Circle podcast, where we take a deeper dive into this year's finalists and winners from our wealthmanagement.com industry awards. These interviews cover the challenges, innovations, and trends in the wealth management industry and the individuals working to help advisors better help their clients.
Welcome to the Wealthy Circle forums, where we will hear from finalists in our Wealthy Awards who are paving the way in the wealth tech industry and wealth management industry. Today, I'm joined by Jacob Brownfield, CPA, Chief Operations Officer of the Pacific Financial Group, Aaron Klein, CEO of Riskalyze, and Brian McLaughlin, the President of Orion Advisor Tech. I almost said Redtail. And I should preface this that if Brian sounds a little bit different today, he is in an undisclosed location. So his sound quality may be just a little off, but those of you that know Brian will recognize the voice. Today, we are talking about client management in a digital world. And it's an interesting topic for me as a journalist. I've been covering this now for 15 years, and it's had many different iterations. These days, though, with the confluence of a lot of different technologies, you've got the marketing world, you've got client actual engagement, onboarding. It's a mixture of a lot of different things. So to me, this is going to be an interesting conversation because we have, a few different folks represented, including someone from an actual advisor firm and two providers who are kind of in different locations on the tech stack. So I kind of want to start this with, what do each of you think of when you think of client management? What parts of that, what pieces of the tech stack does that most represent to you, and how the approach has changed over the last few years? And, I'm going to go in alphabetical order here. So I'm going to start with Jacob. What does client management encapsulate for you? What all does it mean? What all does it represent on your own firm's tech stack and processes?
Well, thank you. And it's great to be here with you all. When we think about client management, we think about it through two lenses. One is, how do financial advisors and wealth management firms actually drive growth in terms of bringing new clients aboard, engaging with potential clients, level setting how much risk is in their portfolio compared to how much risk they actually want and are comfortable with and need to take in order to reach their goals, and really helping firms to create that consistent client experience across their firm and get the growth flywheel spinning in a big way. And then when I think about the word management, I also think about managing clients that are already there. It's so important that financial advisors and firms keep their finger on the psychology of clients. That psychology is typically at its highest when an advisor does a review with a client, and then it has nowhere to go but down. And that's a part of a big reason why we this year introduced the all new check-ins experience to help advisors keep their finger on the pulse beat of client psychology and understand, on the one hand, when clients are getting fearful, but on the other hand, when they might be feeling okay about the markets, but they're feeling anxious about their plan. And that's a really good signal that they might be out there going do I have the right financial advisor? So, client management, I think spans the gamut of that. And ultimately, what I think is a real challenge for the industry is that the average RIA firm, if you take out the impact of the markets, is only growing 2% a year. And we've got to get our industry growing at a much faster clip if it's going to support great innovation and great growth businesses. And so we really believe that focusing on that and delivering those tools to help firms grow is the key to their future.
Brian, I know you from your past life could talk for hours on this particular subject, but now that you're president of Orion Advisor Tech, you have a whole other set. So I'm giving you the challenge of trying to discuss this in just a few minutes.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough challenge, David. Because we could do about 6 hours on this topic.
Yes.
If you'd like. But I think the kind of TLDR of it all, right? We believe in 4 pillars, which starts with prospect, plan, invest, achieve. And we think the digital experience through technology is how we help advisory firms build and grow. Like to Aaron's point, we have to get them from a 2% growth rate 4, 8, 10%. And we can do this through technology and through some of the workflows. We were really excited that we did some work with SnappyKraken that we just announced recently that helps us bring the financial planning and prospect workflows to the front through a marketing engine and bring that then through our technology stack through the CRM and into trading and all that, where we might even pivot out and go get the risk and intelligence data, or we might go work with Riskalyze and bring that data in to help them see that full picture. So we definitely believe there's a digital lens to the prospect journey. And we are taking an approach saying the marketing workflows, the planning workflows can be a strong input for that prospect to make sure that we do a repetitive practice, that we do a consistent delivery of experience. So in a nutshell, that's what it is.
And Jacob, what's your take? I know you guys work with both, advisors and then in turn their end clients and investors. What's your take on this? I suspect it's maybe very similar, but some slightly different aspects to it.
Yeah, I think Aaron and Brian did a great job, and I'll kind of riff off what they were saying. But I think our industry in general just has this huge opportunity in front of us to really change that client experience. I think today we think about clients, they're comfortable accessing their bank accounts through their applications or websites that they're accessing. But I was surprised to see this study earlier this week from Salesforce. It was their 2022 annual report on financial services, and 78% of banking customers initiate relationships through their website or application. And it's almost half that in the wealth management space. Only 42% of clients are engaging. So I think there's this real opportunity to engage end clients through a more elegant digital approach. And it really starts with understanding what your end client's needs are and trying to develop some level of customization and segmentation to meeting their needs. But it really starts with how you engage them on the front end and getting traction to your platform. For us, we're really focused in the retirement space, and the numbers are even worse there, quite frankly. There was a recent study by JD Power and Associates, 7,000 plan participants, and only 37% of them said that they actually engage via their record keeper's digital platform, which I was surprised by. But I think that just illustrates the opportunity of how we all can get better and meet our clients' needs and engage in a more powerful and effective way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I started covering advisor technology about 15 years ago, we were still, and both Aaron and Brian can speak to this as well, that initial client engagement was with a paper form and maybe an in-person handshake and an in-person meeting. Fast forward, it then went to sort of vaults as the place to put documents and repositories, and then slowly, ever so slowly, we've had digital signatures, and then finally digital onboarding. And there's been a lot of factors these last couple of years that have really influenced it, none more so probably than the pandemic, which accelerated a lot of this. Maybe I'll jump to you first this time on this question, Brian, and that's where you may be a bit biased because of your heritage here, but is CRM going to stay sort of the heart of where a lot of the data with client engagement is housed, or do you see that morphing over the coming years?
No, we're definitely looking at it from a CRM lens over here. Mm-hmm. I've always been a believer. I am biased, obviously. I've been building CRM for 20 years, so I'm a little biased. Yep. But I do think it is the cornerstone and the rock to the advisory practice. It's that source of truth. So you want everything to kind of revolve or orbit around the CRM, even if it's not directly in. You can still have little clicks in, where there's notes that have reference other apps or other reference data. You still need it all in one central place. So we look at it as like, this is your source of truth, and everything else we can do through like that most in one integration model of saying we can bring in other parts to this. And obviously we want to bring in as many parts inside our own ecosystem, but we're not a closed door ecosystem. We're not an all-in-one. We want to be a best in breed and a most in one solution. And so that's going to be key. So yeah, we're going to keep pivoting the journeys. We actually spent some time, and actually going back a second with your comments about paper forms, I actually have a little side story where I remember building custom PDF personal profile forms for advisors into the CRM so they could hit one click report. And
we're dating ourselves, Brian. We're dating ourselves.
We are so dating myself, but it was such a big deal. And we've gone now to like Precise FPs of the world, or the amazing Riskalyze lead gen that you can drop on your site and collect the data and pump it into the CRM. So, but at the end of the day, it also eventually fed to a CRM and then was used for multiple purposes. So yeah, we're definitely building the customer journey from that lens, but we do understand some advisors are going to come and bring the experience into planning, or maybe they're going to bring it in through account reviews or portfolio reviews, and that's totally okay as well. Our job is going to be to make sure we get that data also, though, record it into that CRM of choice and have that available, because then we can do all these amazing quick actions out. And we have a lot more insight to a client in one view. And CRM is always meant to be the 360 client view. So that's how we built it.
And Aaron, we've known each other now for a long time, and you were for one of the pioneers who sort of initiated a paradigm shift in one of the sort of alternative routes of onboarding clients, and that's with the risk tolerance questionnaire and digital onboarding, and making the with Riskalyze, particularly the risk number and measurement of that part of the initial onboarding and client management system in awful lot of firms. But you have since built out, your own ecosystem of other tools. I'm curious sort of how you have seen the initial client management morph as the entire advisory world has become more digital.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, Brian and I have been like really good friends for about a decade. And, it was interesting because, I mean, I remember at one point he kind of asked me like, how do you think about CRM? And from my perspective, like on the one hand, he'd done such a great job that it was a very baked market. Like, I think it's incredibly difficult if somebody wanted to come in and try to, build a new CRM. But I tend to look at the world a bit more modularly, right? Like, we need to make it possible. And in some ways, we're still achieving this vision, but we need to make it more possible for advisors to, if we keep the advisor's end experience as the primary thing in our minds, we're going to build things in a different way, and we're going to innovate in a different way. And here's a really good example. Like at our Fearless Investing Summit, I talked about like the next generation integration kits that we're building, and in particular one for CRM. And we'll go update the integration we have with Redtail to leverage that new kit. And in effect, what we're trying to do is we're trying to wire at the organic level into our platform. Every single thing that an advisor does on the Riskalyze platform should be generating like events with data around that, and links into all the details behind it back into Riskalyze, and feeding that over into Redtail, for example, attached to the client record. Because it's got to be your CRM needs to be that consistent system of record where you can go to see all the things happening across your entire tech stack to that client. And I really do believe, and maybe it's a little bit idealistic, but I don't believe that idea holds us back from any level of innovation that we might do. It's just a great principles-based way to build products, to say we can be out there on the bleeding edge of innovating some of the new ways we're helping advisors and firms drive growth. And as long as we're capturing the click streams and the events and the activities that are happening and feeding those back to our CRM partners, the advisor has a great integrated tech stack, which, by the way, they can then, back in the Redtail world, build an automated workflow to trigger off of. How cool is that, right? So these are the kinds of things that it's not glamorous work. They call them last mile integrations for a reason, quotes in the air. But it's so important to continue to lay that groundwork. So that's kind of our theme, as we kind of double our investment in integration this year, is we want to build deep workflow integrations. And that's a whole different level from kind of the integration 1.0 and 2.0 that we've all been executing over the last decade or so.
And Jacob, maybe you could chime in here on where you see sort of the central management of client management for the Pacific Group. Is it a view very different from what Riskalyze and Orion have, or very similar?
It's similar. We just look at it from a slightly different angle, in the sense that we're trying to provide, we're agnostic to the advisors. We work with thousands of advisors all over the country, and each practice that we work with kind of has their own way of doing things. So the more that you can be adaptable and amenable to the way that they service their clients, the better. So if you can provide them with those talking points or those data points for their client, and they can have a call to action, the client's going to really remember that. At the end of the day, the advisors are serving the end investor, and they're going to remember those things. If their client bought a house and that data was readily available for the advisor, and they get a ping in their portal, and they're able to reach out to that client and maybe send them a gift, that's a powerful moment, or maybe, it's a more, oftentimes when clients are calling, they're either calling for market concerns or they're calling for life events. But if you're able to actually get out in front of that and kind of remind them of something that's happening in advance, that will be a very, very powerful memory for the client, and one that'll make a lasting relationship for the advisor as well.
Well, Jacob, I got to thank you, because that's actually a fantastic segue to my next question, which for my own purposes, and I'm selfishly asking this of you guys, but I think all of you are thinking about it. Of late, I've heard an awful lot, more so than I've heard since, I think the first time I heard it was from Salesforce about a decade ago. But with the advent of machine learning and other forms of AI, there is an awful lot of new energy behind this whole notion of next best action and doing predictive analytics on your client. Well, it's not even one data set now with a lot of big firms, it's multiple data sets. And, I saw the news and wrote about it of Orion with what it's working on with Amazon Wealth Services and Redshift, and InvestNet just Friday, and again another release talking about other aspects of it, but their integration and partnership with Snowflake. There's an awful lot to be said for the potential in machine learning in particular, and AI. And I think some advisors may fear it as a threat, but others are going to see it just as another tool for automation. One example that's sort of the most concise one I could plug into our conversation here would be Cognicore, and how they have their chat agent that can kind of integrate into Schwab's platform, for instance, to, I guess, answer phone calls and direct them to the right place. Simple things at first, and taking care of forms if they or a change in beneficiary, very simple things, but they can allow maybe the admin staff and certainly the advisors more time to work with clients. I wonder what you guys, and I guess I'll start with Aaron here to be fair, with your own platforms and then the industry at large, where do you see AI machine learning coming into play here? Do you think that's going to be a big aspect of increasing efficiency and automation, or not?
Well, I've been on record saying that the real deployment of AI in our industry has largely been in press releases.
Yes,
and I think that's been the case in the past. But I do think that the technology is kind of reaching a critical mass and a level of effectiveness that is really interesting. And machine learning in particular, it requires huge data sets to be able to be effective and to do something interesting. But we're actually reaching the point where huge data sets are something that really do exist, and you can actually start to get some really, really interesting perspectives out of that. And so, from my perspective, I see a lot of potential for that in the future. I know that we're actively thinking, for us, what's most interesting is trying to, make like processes and workflows easier for advisors by being able to guess and set as default next best action. I think, for that, again, you need to have massive data sets to say, how do advisors, this advisor, tend to treat clients like this client? Because there are so many different variables. Like the next thing you want to do for this client might be different if it's a taxable account versus a non-taxable account. Right. And it might be different, absolutely, for this, that, and the other. And so there's a whole bunch of variables that come into the mix. And so that gets very complicated, but it also gets very powerful and very interesting. The other place that we're looking at that, and frankly, we've got projects in the labs that we're working on right now, is in regards to discovery. Because our discovery tool we rolled out is like the fastest, easiest way to search for search through the entire universe of ETF stocks, mutual funds, SMAs, fixed income products. And advisors love it for that. It's super fast. But what I find is that if you search for something, you might find 200 results. And if we're going to just be honest with each other, the bottom 180 are probably not that good.
Right.
But the top 20 are probably all great, and they're within like inches of each other, like millimeters of each other. So the nuances of what might make choice number 15 better than choice 2 for this particular situation is something machine learning could probably figure out in a very interesting way. So we're playing with a lot of those, and it goes to advisor preferences around, like, if I'm a financial advisor, do I value like how widely traded a security is over maybe its capture ratios or its tracking error. And so like there's all these different factors where we can understand what advisors value and maybe personalize the results using a machine learning model. And we're playing with a lot of those ideas in the labs right now. So super interesting. I think it's going to play a big role.
Yeah, advisors, you heard it here first. Each firm is going to have its own knowledge graph. Okay. It's getting into the weeds. But mark my words, a few years down the road, you're going to be training your own knowledge graph. Brian,
Yep.
I know you have thoughts here.
I definitely have thoughts here. I agree with Aaron on everything he said. I think we're looking at trying to build some practical examples right now. We've been looking at it from a doc management, books and records view right now. I think there's some interesting opportunities. One of the things we're looking at is building kind of like your best practices. We all have built those over the years, and coming down to like a digital best practice, and then how do I use that to define what opportunities or recommendations we might make based on data? And so we kind of said, okay, well, that's really complex. Maybe we should back up just a little bit. One of the things we're really good at is document, email, and content retention. We have a ton of content. We also have all the user flows, like how people work. So we can analyze that and say, when you work with this client with this XAUM, these are the things you've done in habit. You've just done them. You didn't build anything. We've noticed your pattern, and now we can recommend a pattern. And that's kind of basic learning going on. One of the things, though, that I've been really passionate about is the doc storage side, where we can analyze and tag automatically the documents and the content from the documents, and then get value out of that. For an example, we might be able to use machine learning and OCR to go process the document and take it to the advisor and say, you need these 10 things done for estate planning or for tax planning or for whatever. The client through their portal has uploaded 4 of the 5. They didn't say it, but we've already identified that, yes, the will, the trust, and the statement have been uploaded. We're missing, A, B, and C, and we can notify different people for that. So we can make some actionable data, which is interesting to me. One of the things that's new to me is that now being part of Orion, we have a bigger ecosystem of data. We have an immense amount of interesting trends and history patterns, and we're just starting to look at that from a perspective of providing that, I don't want to say so much next best action, but maybe next best recommendation, right? Giving guidance to it. I'm still not convinced that we can fully automate things through AI for the financial advisor. I think there's a lot of risk there still. I don't think I want a bot auto trading for me, but I think I want a bot suggesting the trade during my day and saying, do you want to do this? And if no, I'll stop. If it's yes, I'll execute for you. But making the advisor still the actionable entity on here and letting them do their job to the best. So that's how I kind of see it right now. And I can't wait, because we get into the Redshift and the AWS Redshift data lakes that we're working on. There's just so much interesting intel in there to how people do the job and how they work every day. I can't wait to see how we bubble that up.
And Jacob, I'm curious if you guys have probably been pitched by some of these firms that I mentioned one, but probably some firms that want to come in and help you guys out using AI. What's you and Pacific Group's take on where this may lead, AI, machine learning, et cetera, in the client management landscape?
Yeah, I think Aaron was right that there hasn't been as much adoption as there will be 10 years from now. Let's just say, I think we can all agree that there will be a lot more adoption. I think right now it's kind of broken into segments. So it probably started somewhere in the robotic process automation, RPA solutions, with things like reconciliations or building bots to kind of automate redundant or processes that can be repeated easily and implemented fairly easily. I think that was one use case. I think what Brian was talking about with optical character recognition, OCR technology, is another place that we're seeing a bit more adoption. I think there's been fits and starts in terms of kind of the augmented reality or metaverse or whatever you want to call it, where firms like Fidelity Labs have tried to get involved in there fairly early on. But I just don't think that we've tapped that as an industry to the level that we can. And I think as it's easier to adopt, as those technology companies make them simpler for us as the consumer to utilize without having to build out a team of data scientists in our firm to get these projects off the ground, I think we'll see them pick up more traction over time. But I do think we're pretty early in the process of adoption, in my view.
All right. Well, we've covered an awful lot of ground here in a short time, and so this is the last question, and I'm not taking the sort of the parameters off. I want to hear about the future. Start with Brian, I guess. And when I say that, what do you see on the roadmap for client management in the next 5 years? That's going to be the most important aspects, and then farther out.
Yeah, so near term, we definitely believe that data streaming, or real-time data streaming, is going to be a big win. That's why we're investing so much in the Redshift solution with Amazon. You know, the world, how it was built in the past, went from, we used to do flat files, REST APIs, GraphQL APIs, all this type of technology, but we're always trying to move forward to a real-time data share. And that's what we can offer with the Redshift platform. So as soon as we have the data, the advisor can have the data. What's really cool and powerful, though, is that it allows the advisor to maybe even attach on other pieces of data that we may not have. They can get sources of data from other partners or their own firm or anything else and bring it in and build their own maybe business intelligence toolkits, build their own dashboards, do whatever they want to do beyond what we might build. Everything we would do normally would be ProServe, and this is now getting closer to UServe, right? And I think that's going to be a huge move for the next couple of years as we show the technology. And you can see it. We talked about Envestnet just announced their Snowflake integration. So it's definitely a pattern we're going to see more and more of, I think, for the next 5 years as we build that out. Going out 10 years, let's say, maybe a little more deep field view. The AI topic that we brought up, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. One thing that's always interesting to me is that advisor firms don't really do any automation around the client request experience, right? A client, you need to do a trade, distribution, whatever it is. We haven't evolved that much. It's still pick up the phone and call me. Don't text me. Don't email me. We have to modernize this, especially if we're going to compete against the next this next generation of investors come up, and the next generation of advisors come up. The demands for the digital capture and the digital experience and being able to be self-serve is going to be critical, and we have to be ready to embrace that, but with professional, high development services behind the scenes, right? And so I am not suggesting by any means advisors are going anywhere. No, we survived the robo-advisor crisis and the endemic that was robo-advisor. We've made it past that. We've always believed in the advisor. But what we need to do is modernize their tech stack. We need to be past the days where we said this industry is 10 years old, behind the times. My car is more advanced in this industry. We need to make the industry as advanced in my car, okay?
In fairness, you drive a Tesla Model S.
I could not have said that better, Brian. I didn't. Geez.
While I drive a Tesla Model S, and you know why? It's an iPhone on wheels, and that's all we all want.
Totally.
Yours is
it's
full
a good challenge.
You've got a brand new truck, and it's full. It's as techy as mine.
Oh man! All right, Aaron.
That's right.
You're up next, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, in the near term, I will double down on the fact that growth is the biggest challenge for firms. And I believe that the number one thing that these firms really have to invest in is a growth platform that is going to drive really start spinning up the growth flywheel, create a consistent client experience across their firm, create the insights and the analytics to help them understand how to accelerate and get, the advisors who are doing most of the growth, figure out what they're doing and drive those best practices across the firm. And then the compliance analytics to kind of keep that rocket ship on track, once you've built it. If you get out there in the future, man, 10 years from now, I'm an optimist at heart. We are going to be in a place where integrations have been built in a whole new 3.0 paradigm of deep workflow integrations where you can really choose best of breed software for these different pillars of your tech stack. And, there's a lot of things Orion is best of breed at, right? And there's a lot of things that I think Riskalyze is best of breed at. There's a lot of things that there are a variety of different pieces of the tech stack that are best of breed. From my perspective, I put my money on advisors wanting a best of breed experience in the future, but they don't want to compromise. They want to have their cake and they want to eat it too. And they want seamless workflows. And the technology is here to accomplish it. We just have to make the investments and build towards that, 3.0 integration level of deep workflow integrations. And I'm pretty excited about our part of the investment in that. I know, firms like Orion have made that commitment. Other firms in the industry have made that commitment. I think it's going to be astounding. I think that 3 years from now, we're going to still be saying, why isn't it moving faster? And 10 years from now, we're going to go, oh my gosh, I can't believe we made it this far in 10 years.
Love it. Jacob, I hate to ask you to follow up on that, but what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, great answers. I think starting with that long term, what is that long term? I think we're all chasing to really optimize and curate the best solution for the end investor and for the end advisor. So it starts with, and that's why Brian and Orion have, are so focused on Redshift and collecting that data, because you need that data in order to understand what your client needs or what the advisor needs. And to Aaron's point, to start to provide those solutions and be agnostic with whichever tool they need, whether it's Riskalyze or my shameless plug for our company's Risk Pro tool for their risk surveillance, but providing them with that platform where it can be adaptable and they can sort of choose their own. I think of, I like the way that Aaron was articulating that future world. And there was even a reference to, I think it was an iPhone on wheels with the Tesla by Brian. For me, the Apple and the iPhone is a perfect example of that. That's a technology we didn't have not that long ago, right? And it's something that has streamlined my personal life and simplifies my life on a daily basis. And it just gets better and better. We have all these disparate apps, whether it's your banking or your 401k or your personal activities, your travel. They've created a system where you can access all these disparate applications and tools and facially recognize you and grant you access into that particular tool. And then, they've created this digital wallet where all, magically your tickets just drop in there and you have everything in one central aggregated place. I think that is the future. I think that's what we're all striving for. And I'm optimistic that we'll get there and hopefully more closer to the near term than the 10-year time horizon.
Absolutely. A whole legion of advisors hope that too. Well, I hate it, guys. I feel like we could probably go on for a few more hours here. But I want to thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Brian, for joining me today. Thank you to our audience for listening to this Wealthies Circle podcast. For more Wealthy Circle podcasts, visit Wealth Management TV on wealthmanagement.com, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
This content has been made for information and educational purposes only. The views and opinions represent the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of wealthmanagement.com.